Welcome to our explainer. We're about to pull back the curtain on your morning coffee. And trust me, it's a story of science, struggle, and flavor that begins long before you even think about hitting that brew button.
You know that feeling, right? When you have one cup of coffee that's just unforgettable, it's complex, it's delicious, and then the next one just falls completely flat. Or even worse, it tastes just plain awful. Ever wondered why that is? Well, the answer isn't just about the brand you buy or how good your local barista is. The real secret, it lies in a journey, a transformation that starts the very moment a coffee cherry is picked from the tree. And it really is a battle. I'm talking a high-stakes fight between microscopic villains that are trying to ruin a coffee bean and microscopic heroes that can turn it into something absolutely incredible. Okay, so let's dive right in. We'll start by looking at the end result, the huge difference in what can actually end up in your cup. So on one side, you've got the potential for that perfect cup, bright, fruity, sweet, with all those amazing floral or chocolatey notes. And on the other, from the very same plant, you can get a defective cup that tastes sour, musty, maybe even a little like plastic. So what goes so wrong along the way? Well, the first culprits are what the coffee world calls defects. And these are exactly what they sound like. Physical imperfections in the bean that basically act like tiny saboteurs, just completely wrecking any chance of a good flavor. And here they are, the main offenders. The Specialty Coffee Association actually classifies them by how bad they are. You've got the major primary defects, like a full black bean that gives off this medicinal taste, or a sour bean that brings this sharp, vinegary note. Then you have the less severe secondary defects, like a Quaker, which is really just an unripe bean that tastes kind of like paper or cereal. And get this, the impact is huge. You don't need a whole bag of these bad beans to ruin your coffee. Just one single severe defect, one of those full black or sour beans, is enough to completely taint an entire batch. It's wild. Okay, so that's the story of ruin. But what about the journey to a great cup? Well, that brings us to our hero process, fermentation. Fermentation is this totally natural, biological step where that sticky fruit layer on the outside of the bean, it's called mucilage, gets broken down. But this process does way more than just clean the bean. It's like a flavor engine. It creates the chemical building blocks that will later turn into all those delicious notes in your cup. And how this fermentation is handled leads to two big styles. In the washed process, that fruit layer is removed pretty quickly, which leads to these really clean, crisp flavors that let the bean itself shine. But in the natural process, the whole cherry is dried intact, allowing the fruit's sugars to ferment and just soak into the bean. That's how you get those intensely sweet and fruity coffees. So who's actually doing all this hard work during fermentation? It isn't magic. It's a massive, microscopic workforce of naturally occurring yeast and bacteria. And thanks to research in Colombia, we know who the key players are. This chart shows the dominant bacteria, and you can see almost half of them are this one powerhouse type of lactic acid bacteria that is just incredible at breaking down sugars. And they don't work alone, no way. They're joined by a whole diverse team of yeasts, with certain species popping up more than others. These little guys are absolutely crucial for developing all those distinct, desirable flavors and aromas that we love in our coffee. And you can actually see their impact right here. This graph is so cool, it shows that as the microbes are eating up the fruit's sugars, they're producing these organic acids. You see the pH level just steadily drop over 72 hours? That's a direct measurement of how this tiny workforce is fundamentally changing the bean's chemistry. Now, this whole natural process can be kind of chaotic, a little inconsistent, but today, innovators in the coffee world are figuring out how to take control of this chaos to create very specific, incredible, and repeatable flavors. One of those pioneers is world barista champion Sasa Sestic. He realized that if you could master fermentation, you could unlock a coffee's true potential. And as he puts it, the results can be, well, pretty dramatic. An 8-point swing on the 100-point specialty coffee scale, that is absolutely phenomenal. That's the difference between a pretty good coffee and an elite, award-winning coffee that can go for some seriously high prices. So how did he do it? He actually looked to the wine industry. Winemakers have been mastering fermentation for centuries, right? So he developed this data-driven, scientific approach to basically design the final taste of the coffee. His method is called carbonic maceration, and it's all about total control. He uses sealed tanks, he controls the temperature precisely, and he pumps in carbon dioxide to push out all the oxygen. This slows the whole process way, way down. It allows those microbes to work longer, developing these incredible flavors, and he can replicate that perfect recipe every single time. Okay, so what does this whole microscopic battle between the defects and this masterful fermentation, what does it mean for your daily cup? Well, understanding this journey actually empowers you as a coffee drinker. When you're buying coffee, you can look for clues that point to quality. Find roasters who are transparent, who tell you the whole story of the bean, especially its processing method. And hey, if you buy whole beans, take a close look. Uniform color and size are always a great sign. The thing to remember is that every single cup of coffee holds a story of its journey. It's either a story of a battle won against defects through really careful work, or it's a story of masterful processing that cultivated an incredible flavor. So from now on, when you taste those bright blueberry notes in a natural process coffee, or that super clean, nutty finish of a washed one, you can actually taste that story. You can appreciate the unseen battle and that microscopic workforce that made it all possible. So what story are you going to go look for in your next cup?